it always kills me whenever I see the community eating itself up on the subreddit or elsewhere, but mainly on Reddit. I remember back when I think it was in 2016, after all the raid releases happened, how pissed everyone in the community were not at ArenaNet, but at Raiders because they were getting content. And on either side of Heart of Thorns, there was a 9-month content drought for anyone who didn't raid. Why do you think these kinds of community interactions happen? Is it a result of the way the game is, or is it just a gaming community thing?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I've got my fair share of gripes with the Guild Wars 2 community, but it's definitely not fair to really say it's like a Guild Wars 2 thing. This
Mhm.
happens in every community. What doesn't happen? Well, and to be fair, actually, no, I'm actually going to go even further than this. Like, I was going to say something like, yeah, ArenaNet responds to it and handles it appallingly, but no, actually, every big company is really awful at doing this. Actually,
Yeah.
um, I don't know how. I honestly, I wonder how some of these companies got where they are. Okay, it's kind of a failing upwards kind of thing. A lot of the time is how it certainly seems. But I can't remember who said this, but well, Nike told me about this. He said that someone said this. It's like apparently someone famous said it, so it must be true, right?
Mm.
But what happens is might have been Steve Jobs actually, might have been Jobs. What you have is you have a lot of very very passionate people who make a product, right? And then eventually all those people end up getting replaced by people who want money and men in suits, right? And then
Oh, yeah.
all the passion's gone, all the energy's gone, and then you end up with Blizzard, okay?
Yeah.
With the way it is right now.
Yeah, the people who are passionate about the product get replaced by people who are passionate about the business. That happens with anything that's successful, I think, and
Yeah.
so the
It becomes
creative's gotta
corporate
move
and
on.
becomes bad. But I apologize. I kind of sidetracked there. Why does this happen? Like, why does this happen? It
I
happens
like
because
sidetracks, by the way, so that's fine.
one online communities are vicious and they want their thing, right? Okay, so that's just the way it goes. But there is another element to it, and the element is that with a slow release schedule, and honestly, a lot of the time, it always feels like Arena is kind of teetering on the brink of oblivion, right? It is very much a it feels like every game mode for itself, right? You know what I mean? It feels like a very much a zero sum game. You know, it's like
Yeah.
okay, if that raid comes out, that means I don't get something, right?
Mhm.
If I'm say I'm a PvP player, um, and a raid gets released, that's like, oh, wait, hang on a minute, right? That's raids. I don't like raids. I'm never going to play raids.
Mhm.
Those raiders, man, they're ruining my game. I'm not getting any content, and in a way, that statement is true. No, actually, not in a way. That statement is true. Of course, it's a zero sum game. There are only so many hours in the day. They only have so many programmers. They only have so many artists, so many developers. Right now, obviously, it's a little bit more complicated than that, right? Because they've got different teams working on different stuff. But
And
still,
you
the,
can
the
always get
general
more
principle
teams.
holds, right? Yeah, but the principle holds, right? They only have so many hands to assign to projects, right, and do stuff. And this is why people are very, very aggressive with each other as well. And
Mhm.
I think with Guild Wars 2, there is the added element that you have something very, very interesting, which isn't just casual players, you have very toxic casual players, right? You have a lot
Mm.
of very entitled players. And this is cultured from the game itself. Like the game does not require you to really put in any effort to get any of the rewards.
Mhm.
Okay, that is to say, even if you are literally the worst player ever and you only auto attack, you'll get all the legendaries. Pretty much no problem, right? Like,
Mhm.
not exactly the hardest thing in the universe. So, when something like a raid comes along or a challenge mode and you can't get that reward anymore, you're upset, you're mad, you're entitled, right? Because you don't want to get good. You don't want to have
Yeah.
to know what your ability. You don't want to read tooltips. What's reading? I don't. You did all that at school. What the hell is that? I don't want to do reading anymore, right?
Mhm.
Um,
I have my
and
9
so you
jobs and
get
my 15 children to worry
exactly.
about.
You get mad. I don't want to have to interact with another human being in my massively multiplayer online game. I don't want to do that. And it's the same thing with PvP, of course, right? I don't want to have to fight other players. This is ridiculous. They should put this in open world PvE as well. And obviously, this is insane, right? Like these people are idiots. They want to devalue and remove any kind of value with any reward or anything within the game, and just kind of put it into a giant mush where it doesn't matter what you've done, everything is irrelevant and nothing matters, which would
Mhm.
just be a terrible game. But that's what people want. What not very vocal minority want. And the trouble is that I've witnessed this behavior, and I'm actually a really good example for this. Sometimes on the subreddit, people will agree with my opinions and upvote me a lot. Other times, I'll say basically the same thing or exactly the same thing, and I'll get massively downvoted, and there'll be people, roasting me in the comments section. Why does this happen? It happens because social media is a disease, and social media is a hive mind, and they'll follow basically the sheep will follow the crowd, and the momentum goes in one way or another. And this is why the Guild Wars 2 subreddit and subreddits in general are very susceptible to incredibly hyperbolic mood swings. Because if you can get like a downvote train going or an upvote train going, everyone's just going to agree with you because that's the zeitgeist, right? Like that's the feeling, that's the mood
Mhm.
on the subreddit, and people are going to hive mind together, and they're going to either roast you, they're going to disagree with you, agree with you, basically completely arbitrarily, and not really think too much about it, right?
Mhm.
They're going to just say, "Oh wow, yeah, that sounds good. Let me upvote that," or "Oh, I don't like that. I'm going to downvote that." Look, all these other people are downvoting or upvoting, right? And yeah, you just end up with these big momentums. But that's not unique to Guild Wars 2. Like the exact same thing happens in basically um every online gaming sphere, right? That exists. That's just
Mhm.
how people are, right? Like
Mhm.
when people are online, they I don't know. You know how script get more intelligent the more of them there are? Humans are the opposite. The
Maybe
more
script were
people there are,
aspirational.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, you wanna be like chat aspire to be a Scrit, okay? Don't
Yes.
be like humans on social media. Humans on social media, the more of us there are, the dumber we get. That's actually true. Well, I mean, you could probably find some science on that, seriously, guys, right? You know what I'm saying? Right? Like,
Well,
it's ridiculous, it really is.
it goes back to our tribal programming, right? Like humans didn't evolve to be part of this global village we call the internet.
Mm,
I was chatting with Rel a couple weeks ago, the lead game designer on PlanetSide 2, and we talked about how essentially no one really knows how to make a live services game. No one really knows how to do it well. Um, I think there's some examples of people who are having a lot of success. Like I look at the riots.
mhm.
Sorry, the company Riot, not riots in the real world. Um, but of course, that's also a company that makes competitive PvP games where toxicity is an enormous issue that they've dealt with at many different scales. Um, Even though I don't necessarily think though that Guild Wars is I would say uniquely responsible for this kind of an manifestation. I still feel like there are things that can happen to mitigate it. I've pretty much any game that I pick up, I always throw myself into the Reddit community, and even though there's, to your point, always animosity, I still feel like Guild Wars is particularly divisive.
Yeah,
And the
and
sense
and
that I
that's where
get is that it has a lot to do with everyone just feeling starved for
yeah,
what they
and that's
want.
where the state of the game comes into it. The state of the game is why people are so rabid about this, right? Because they feel that if they allow a positive opinion or a reasonable take about an aspect of the game they have no interest in, then ArenaNet will see it and they'll do it. And then my game will become worse and I won't be able to play that. I won't be able
Right.
to do that. So yeah, like because of that, yes, people are very, very aggressive about it. I will say this does happen in other games too, but yeah, it happens in Guild Wars 2 more. And look, I'm just gonna say this, right? Like and I will state both sides of this equation because there
Mhm.
absolutely are. Like you can be a very toxic, like hardcore player. Absolutely. Guild
Mhm.
Wars 2 doesn't actually have that many of those. What it
It's
does
true.
have
It's
is
reversed.
yeah, it's the exact inverse. Guild Wars 2 is the opposite of the elitist MMO. It is the aggressively casual MMO, right? That is to say that if you suggest anything outside of casual content, you will basically get like attacked, right? Okay, by rabid casuals who will come at you. And look, you can experience the game how you want to do. Like I would consider myself a relatively casual player. I just play my video game, man. I'm just like messing around in PvP or whatever. I'm not like mega sweaty about the
Uh-huh.
game. I'm not like, okay, right, let's get the team together, let's get the boys. I'm just doing some raids, right? I'm doing my best as an individual, but am I really try harding like as a team, like to get raids together or to get PvP team? No. I'm just messing around and having fun with the boys, right?
Mhm.
Is what I'm doing,
Mhm. Mhm.
and doing my best on an individual level to play the game as well as I can. So you can experience the game how you want to experience the game. I've got no problem with casual players. I think
Mhm.
casual players are great. Casual players are the bedrock of
You
any
need
game,
them.
from
Mhm.
all the way from old school RuneScape all the way up to Guild Wars 2, right? Like both ends of the spectrum there, right? Like you need casual players, otherwise there's nothing for the hardcore players
Mhm.
because you know true hardcore players, like less than 10%, like honestly less than 5%
Right.
of the player base, right? Especially in modern titles, with gaming becoming more and more accessible, more and more prevalent, you get a higher proportion of casual players. Because this is something you were talking about earlier, right? Like
Mhm.
there were a lot of these road bumps to even getting into the game, right?
Mhm.
Okay, even getting there, right? You have to get the right add-ons, you've got to get the right tech, right, the right hardware to even be able to interact in these
Right.
communities. And that's gone now, right? Anyone can play WoW, right? You don't need to be in these kind of special, super secret servers, right, to actually get in on the action anymore. No, everyone can, right? So obviously the proportion of players, because there's a low barrier to entry now, you're going to get way more casual players. But anyway,
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But the trouble is that it does become a bit of a situation when anything outside of exactly what you want is annihilated and considered absolute garbage, right? Like that is a big problem. But I mean,
Mhm.
all of it really stems back to the fact that people feel like the end times are upon us, and any deviation from the path mean that the game will like spiral off out of control, and then you'll lose the game, and then you'll hate the game. You won't
Yeah,
like it
it's a
when you hate
sense of
it, right?
outsized control, right? And that's what seems to me like if people didn't believe they could influence the direction of Guild Wars 2 by upvoting a post on Reddit, they would have no incentive to brigade people who disagreed with them. Although I suppose it is just a natural behavior, right? It's
Yeah,
more of a
it's just
zeitgeist aggregator than anything else. Which is what you said
it's just
earlier.
the way people are, right? I'm not
Yeah,
gonna level that accusation at the Guild Wars 2 community in particular, right? Like
yeah,
people are always gonna go for their interest. People are never gonna understand that the downvote button is not for disagreeing. The downvote button is for when it's irrelevant to the
not relevant,
discussion, right?
right?
Like, and that's something that no Reddit is ever going to actually correctly. This is the way people are. People are going to upvote their own interests, and they're going to downvote stuff they disagree with, right? I mean, that's just what it is, right?
Mhm.
Unlucky.
Yeah.